Hey YouTube, how are you guys doing today? This is Straw Hat Izzy, aka the Izzy Cruise, if you follow me on Twitch. And today I think I was gonna make a video just bring you something a little more casual than what I usually do. Usually it's like a deck profile for a tournament I topped in, but I've had a deck that I've been playing that I just enjoy playing. I haven't had a chance to play in a tournament, but I think it could do fairly well depending on your matchups. And it's been doing really well in playtesting, especially with a lot of the great players I get to play against. So I'll go ahead and show you guys the list. If you like the video, please consider, subscribing to the channel where I bring you a lot of Digimon content. And follow me on Twitch if you want to see any of my matches or be a part of any of my coaching. And yeah, we'll get right into it. So the deck I'm choosing to bring for you today is Gallantmon. And I think it's really fun. I think it can have a good tournament run if you fall into the right matchups. I don't think it's necessarily tier 1, maybe like tier 2, but if you play it well, you could do really well with it. So here's the list. Starting with the babies, I'm playing 4 copies of Digimon. I feel like this is the only egg you need. You don't raise as much as you would think you would. It's usually like 1 or 2 stacks and then the game's over, so you want the maximum amount of consistency from these cards. And yeah, I think Digimon's just really strong. Being able to draw when you swing with a Groundmon or a Gallantmon or a Guillamon is super powerful. So definitely 4 Digimon eggs. From there, onto the rookies. We have 4 copies of EX2 Guillamon, because it lets you search. 4 copies of Warp Guillamon. And then something a little bit strange to most people's deck list is I'm playing 4 copies of the old Guillamon. And I have a reason for all these cards being Guillamon. This one being your main searcher is really strong. This lets you draw cards, and this is basically the Agumon that gives you plus 1000, because almost always your opponent has 5 cards in trash, so you get that DP boost. 12 rookies, no more, no less. I think it's the right ratio for this deck. And the reason I'm playing all of the Guillamons is because I'm playing 2 copies of Calamon. Now, lately we've seen this have a great impact in green hybrid decks because it allows them to get a little bit more memory, give DP to Rapidmon, and draw a card. But by playing all Guillamons, you get to play this card for 1, and then it allows your Gallantmon to get to certain DP thresholds to beat over things. On top of that, it's really good bait so that you can play Calamon, have a Guillamon in the back with usually like a Tocado. Your opponent promotes, and then you get to evolve, swing, and then like destroy their tower. So I think it's a really good card. I'm playing it at 2, no more, no less, because I think it's like fine at 2. Really good ratio for it. From there, let's go ahead and talk about the champions. Champions, I'm playing 4 copies of this Groundmon that gives you a memory when you delete something, because I feel like that's really strong. Then 2 copies of this Groundmon that when attacking deletes a 2k or less, or if you have a red teamer, deletes a 4k or less. I chose not to play more of it because the Guillamon basically has the same inheritable, and like it being Groundmon is only really great important to its name, so that's the only reason. From there, 3 copies of Geogreymon, because I think this card's really strong in this deck. Being able to delete something, tap Tocado, and make it a little bit cheaper on play, or like it coming out of security is really strong. So 3 copies of this. And then 1 copy of the Goonimon, just because we play a good amount of Tamers, so we want an additional win condition to your Tamers, right? And if you have to build over one of your Tocados, it gets you there. So 10 champions. I think it's a good enough ratio for champion lineup. From there, our ultimates. A little bit different than what you might see from most people, but I have fair reasons for it. 4 copies of Wargrowl, because when attacking, delete something 3k or less, and then it gives sec plus 1, so it's really strong. I think it's the best Wargrowl in the deck. 2 copies of EX2 Wargrowl, because when attacking, delete a 4k or delete a 6k, which is really strong. And then the inheritable gives Gallantmon the ability to do an extra 1000 to that DP threshold for deletion, so I think that's very powerful. And then 1 copy of the old Wargrowlmon. And the reason we're doing 1 copy of this Wargrowlmon is because it allows you to Digivolve, pop something, tap your Tocados to gain a memory, in case you need to do a play where you have to keep it your turn, and you don't really want to waste a blitz at that point. So I think it's really strong. We're not playing cards like Rise Greymon because we just like want to be able to keep these inheritables. And Rise Greymon's inheritable is pretty good, but I don't know. I think you could go either way. It's just what would you cut for the Rise Greys, basically. From there, onto the Megas. One copy of Megidramon. I think you only need one. I think this should be like the first Mega you go into. That way, if it dies, you get a play back from it being deleted. And it's a potential win condition too. If they get really low on cards, you could just mill them out. So, really good card. From there, I'm playing 4 copies of the EX2 Gallantmon. This card's really strong because when attacking, delete something with 6,000 or less total. And then if you have a Tamer in play, increase that by 2,000. Makes it up 14k on your turn. And then, yeah, just really strong inheritable. 14 is really good. You could cut one of these for the starter deck Gallantmon if you'd like to do certain other plays, but I didn't find it necessary. I may test it out with the 3-in-1 split though, just to have the set +1. And then a little less traditional, but I think it's really good in this deck. 1 copy of Crimson Mode, and then 2 copies of Agumon Bond of Bravery. So this deck basically requires you to have a Tamer anyway, so Bond is usually live. And on turns where you don't want to pass your turn, or like you don't want to pass on just a Gallantmon suspended because certain things could beat over it, by digivolving to a Bond of Bravery, they can't really beat over it, and then the following turn, you can kill something and trash their security, which is very powerful. And then Gallantmon's usually like the game-ending card. That's why I don't play 3 of it, because this card could be like mid to late game, but this card usually almost always happens to be late game. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and talk about our option cards. Talk about the 2 red memory boosts that we're playing. I feel like the deck is like in a good enough spot that you don't have to play 4 of this card. However, you could if you'd like to. Gaining the 2 memory can be really good at some crucial plays where you need to go to 3, so you can digivolve into like a champion and then ultimate, and then maybe digivolve for Blitz on your Gallantmon, so that's really strong. And then, yeah, just a good searcher in the beginning of the game if you break even after the mulligans. Our only form of removal that isn't in our main engine is 3 copies of Crimson Blaze, because it stops cards like Gatekeeper from coming out in the Reaper matchup. Very good against like Imperial, Mastamon, decks with smaller bodies, so it could be good against Blue Hybrid if they go wide, against Green Hybrid if they go wide. Really strong card, and really powerful in combination with Takato, especially if you can get this card to be free. And then, speaking of which, we're playing 4 copies of Takato, because he is the best card in the deck, more than likely. He allows you to have Blitz, and then he gains your memory by tapping himself if you delete something. So having multiples of these can get you a very big advantage in the game, and I think you have to play 4 of it. It's just a really strong Tamer, and I think it's the one you really want to see. And then finally, to end it off, we're playing 2 copies of Hero. The reason we're playing 2 copies of Hero, not cards like Tai, is because sometimes you have to build in the front, and other times you can build in the back. But Hero gives you that plus 2,000 that you may need for your ultimates, or even plus 2,000 that you may need for your Gallantmon in some situations. So I think 2 copies of Hero is really strong. You need some type of memory Tamer. I think this is the one to play. And that's it. That's it for the deck, guys. Cool interaction that I'll go over with you guys really quickly. So let's say, and here's why we talked about wanting to play the starter deck Gallant, is because it only costs 3. So sometimes you could do this play. So let's say this is starter deck Gallant. You evolve for 3. What happens is Takato will give this Blitz, because if you digivolve into a Wargrey or a Gallantmon, if you digivolve into a Growl or Gallantmon, you get to gain Blitz. So when digivolving, you gain Blitz. So even if you digivolve into Agumon Bond of Bravery without passing your turn, as soon as it passes the memory, you are allowed to smooth this Bond of Bravery because it already has Blitz now. So that's the one reason maybe to play the other Gallantmon from the starter deck. So yeah, I think it's a really cool thing that I learned recently. I think it helps the deck in some situations. But overall, let me know what you guys think about the deck. Let me know what you're playing. Give me some insight as to what I could be doing better, what I think could have been a little bit different. If you guys have any point of views, maybe throwing in some Rise Grace could be really good just for like Armor Rush, because that's a decently hard matchup, or like some other decks. Beside that, thank you guys a lot, and have a great rest of your day.